Welcome to Tipsy Chisme, where we drink, you listen,
and we gossip.
So, this week we're going to be talking about las perras de nuestra vida. Not clickbait. Yeah, so we thought we'd just make it a little bit more fun this week and just talk about the animals that we have grown up with or we have funny stories with. Disclaimer this week is that some of these stories involve other people's animals, so other people's animals don't come for us.
This is just a fun episode, I feel like.
Let's
Like you said, keep things lighthearted. Vamos a empezar con los gatos. Las cosas. De hecho, una de las razones que me dejaron de gustar los gatos era también incluye esto, las historias de
las
las
historias.
las historias de terror de gatos de niñas. Una es esta. Teníamos unos primos visitándonos. Teníamos un gatito chiquitito, chiquitito, bonito. Aventaron el gato. No, no sé por qué. Nomás me acuerdo que había mucho relajo. Eran niños con mucha energía. Punto es, el gato terminó aventado. Lo aventaron. Ya estaba el abanico prendido. Y le pegó el abanico. Y nomás me acuerdo de ver pelos por todos lados. El gatito se había muerto.
Well, I think during that same time frame, I don't know if it was the same kitten or a different one.
Different one.
Well, I had the same or a scar from a little tiny kitten that just never went away because it was a really deep cut. Well, I was holding it like a little baby because it's just a little baby. And I'd like put it on its back, but obviously not all cats love that. And I still do it to this day. Every kitten I see, my instinct is to lay it on its back. But essentially the cat didn't like it, so it like tore my upper lip. I actually used to be scared of cats up until I think I was 10-ish when our neighbors had a cat and I went to go ring their doorbell, I think, and the cat was just sitting in the front porch and my instinct was just to like touch it, like hee hee, good kitty, and the kitty didn't attack me. So I was like, huh, maybe all cats aren't bad. And then you bought burger for our sister, and that
I was trying to make a slurping noise.
I think that's when my fear kind of went away. And then right after that, I adopted Oogie. I mean, I get demolished by cats all the time, but I started working as a veterinary assistant, and there was this Siamese cat. That cat was not feeling good. It had been blocked, it wasn't peeing, and the doctor had the smart idea of touching its belly because obviously, like, they have to do that and whatever. But I was new to that career, so I didn't know any better. And so I, like, held onto the cat, and the cat bit my finger. And I didn't know that cat bites were that bad, and I almost lost my finger because of that because I didn't go to the hospital right away. If you ever get bit by a cat, you need to go to the hospital because you need to get put on antibiotics.
I know that when I got pregnant, I learned how like dangerous cats can be to like a pregnant lady. Yeah.
And this girl was still touching up on them. I remember there was a cat that came to your apartment all the time and it was pregnant.
Yes.
And you felt sympathy for it or something, but I remember you petting it all the time. Another crazy thing with cats, so our cousin, when she was here for my wedding, she was setting up everything in the back. I was already in the tent and she was going inside of the house and I heard her scream, but she's always screaming, so I just like
Bien dramática.
yeah. And so I just ignored her or whatever. But then I was like, wait, what if something happened? Because the scream sounded a little bit different. And so I like turned around and then I like ran to her. Well, it turns out that like as she was going inside, a cat followed her inside, like a stray cat. And the cat jumped onto a shelf that was in that little laundry room area. And I guess it was trying to find a way out too, but she was in the way. And I'm pretty sure it like climbed onto her back and then it darted out of the house. That happened to me with a squirrel. Well, there was a squirrel trapped in the chicken coop. I mean, it trapped itself in there, but I didn't know that the squirrel was in there. So when I went into the chicken coop, I closed the door behind me, and I was getting the eggs, and I heard like a tsh, tsh. I was like, "What is that noise?" And then the squirrel like came into the actual coop where I was grabbing the eggs, and I was like, "Oh Lord!" And I'm not scared of squirrels, but when you're trapped with one, like that's scary. And I was like trying to get out of the coop area to go into the run to leave, and the squirrel too was like, "Where do I go? Where do I go?" And so it jumped onto my back, and I was like, "Ah!" And and I darted out of there too.
Coyotes, I feel like always too, when we were younger with Max and Jack. I just remember it was a thunderstorm, and for whatever reason, o sea, ¿cuántos años pude haber tenido? Como unos 6 7 años. Yo tuve que meterlos y estaban en el cuartito de afuera, así que los estaban bien grandes los perros, así lo recuerdo yo, estaban bien grandes los perros y los tuve que meter yo, y en eso que los estaba metiendo, en lo que voy cerrando la puerta, estaba un coyote de atrás y me hizo así, no me alcanzó a morder, pero me pudo haber mordido la lengua, la, la nalga. Ahí es cuando empecé a tener las pesadillas de coyotes. Siempre tenía una pesadilla que los coyotes se metían a la casa y nos querían matar y comer. Pero eran como hombres lobos. Like that kind of stuff, you know? Hasta la fecha tengo ese sueño. Uh, Candy was another dog. Very cute dog. I don't even
It
know.
was our cousin's dog's
Dog's daughter.
puppy.
Yeah, we couldn't find her for the longest time. And then one day, I don't know how, I don't know why I was outside and I found the bones underneath the
So
RV.
it wasn't that she had gone missing. It was that the next morning we saw that the door was left open.
Because we were calling for her, and she would always run away. I remember I would be Candy, and she'd come from like the whole other street. Just and you'd see
If
her
you know,
little
you know.
paws coming all the way up, and then yeah, then one day she didn't come back, and it turns out she was eaten by a coyote. And then there's this one time where I don't know what we were doing, but I think I had just taken the dogs out to pee, and at that point the house where we lived at, it was right next to a wash, and the coyotes loved the washes or whatever. I just remember seeing the coyote, and at that point our security system was a big stick on the sliding door to lock it. So I grabbed that big stick and I went outside and I started beating up the coyote, because the coyote had the dog in its mouth already.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept fighting, and he let go of that one and tried to grab the other one, and the other one bit its ear.
So my dad's boss, for some reason, gave up his dogs, I think.
He couldn't take care of them anymore.
Yeah, and I remember we were at school and we just came back and there was two other dogs in our backyard, and we were like, whose chihuahuas are these? There was one time we were traveling with all the dogs and they were in the trunk.
I think I remember now.
Yes, and we took them out to go pee, and one of them, or two of them,
The Chihuahuas.
they darted out of the cages and they started running. We were out of town, so we stopped at Love's, and it was on the highway, and this girl chased after them like in the middle of traffic in a new place. She didn't even tell anyone or anything. She just started running after them, and so we started driving to go look for this girl. She had caught up to them. She found the dogs. She was like so far away, and those dogs, like, they always ran away. Ginger too. There
like
was
most of our dogs ran away.
Yeah, it's so strange because
it's like they don't love us or something.
It's strange because the Chihuahuas then got rehomed to our aunt, and our aunt didn't have a backyard. Like, it wasn't fenced in, is what I mean. And the dogs, obviously, like, when she took them out, she would just let them out, like how I do with Zerks and Richie.
Zerks runs away.
Zerks does run away, but he doesn't run away. Like, the dog's mission was to leave. Zerks' mission is to adventure and then come back.
Do you feel like we should reflect on that?
Maybe. I mean, I will say we weren't the best animal owners.
Because we were kids.
Yeah, we were kids, and we also
didn't know.
Yeah. Our parents didn't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, in Mexico, where they grew up, my mom tells me these things. I'm like, huh? You do what? Like, the dogs don't get, mind you, not all of them, but, like, when my mom was growing up, the dogs don't eat dog food. They eat leftovers. Like, whatever they were eating, they got the scraps. So, yeah, we didn't have a lot of knowledge on those animals like we should have.
Which is not an excuse. This is one thing I will say. I feel like people should be educated on how to take care
Yes,
of their animals.
I obviously didn't know a lot until I went to school for it, but I think that's one of like the big reasons that I really got into the career because I've always loved animals, but I never felt like I was doing enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I really enjoy like teaching other people about it, like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do this, and not necessarily like, oh, I want you to spend all your money and do all these fancy things that all these people are doing. No, but just doing the bare minimum and being like, okay, if you can't afford to do this, could you at least do this?
That's how I feel working with doctor, with a pediatrician. I feel like I learned a lot of stuff there, which is why I feel like I feel like I felt more comfortable taking care of Mateo and a lot of things. Like I knew
Hmm.
everything, I knew how it ran and all that. So not to compare Mateo to a dog, but
But like for example, the other day, not the other day, a few weeks ago, chocolate.
oh,
Um, Leslie and I were in the backyard cleaning the chicken's coop, and I went into the front to throw away a bag of trash, and there was just like this random dog in the front yard, but I didn't think anything of it because we kind of live in the country. Like people just leave their dogs like
run
loose,
wild,
yeah, because like
country.
yeah. And I saw the dog, and it just made eye contact with me, and it started walking towards me. I was like, oh no, and I wasn't calling the dog over. Like it literally just walked up to me, and I was like, God dang
Dog
it.
whisper.
So I grabbed the dog, and I told Leslie, I was like, dude, could you go grab me a leash? I grabbed the leash, or she grabbed me the leash, and then we were walking towards the houses to try and find its owners, but no one was answering the door. They're like, who is this random girl with the dog? Um,
It's probably thought we were spending Girl Scout cookies.
yeah. But yeah, I couldn't find any owner or anything like that. And so I brought it back to the house. I gave it water and I did my quick little exam to see like if there was anything wrong with the dog. And the dog was it looked super healthy. The only thing that it had was an ear infection, and I have ear meds here for Zerks. And so I cleaned the dog's ears, I medicated them, blah, blah, blah. We took it to the firefighter station. They were closed. We took it to the emergency vet. It wasn't microchipped. And I was like, oh, great. And so we came back home. And you know what? I did all I could. All I could. But since we're in the country and it's a dog, I was like, it's going to find its way back home. So I go to the front. And I'm like, okay, dog, this is where we part ways. If you like want to stay here, just like sleep on the porch, you're fine. And as I was having this pep talk, which is all recorded
On her
on
ring camera.
um this like woman walks up to us. She's like, hello? And I was like, is this your dog? And it turns out it was their dog. It was like our front door neighbors, I guess. And I told her, I was like, yeah, your dog looks really good. Like it had an ear infection, so I cleaned and medicated them. And she's like, oh, like I'm so sorry. Like I don't have money to do all that. I said, no, you're fine. Like I'm not judging you. I was just letting you know that I did that stuff, so you're aware. And she's like, no, it's an outdoor only dog. And I said, that's fine. Having outdoor dogs, like it's not a bad thing, especially in the country. I told her, I said, the only thing I did know, like I know he's not neutered, and I would definitely like recommend doing that whenever you get the chance. She's like, but it's too expensive. I'm like, oh, I know. I said, there's a lot of spay and neuter clinics here that will even do it for either a really low price or for free, and they even go to your house and everything in like a mobile van. So I was like, just look it up on Facebook. Like whenever you get the chance, look it up on Facebook and investigate that because it's not just about looks or about urine, it's about the risk of testicular cancer. And so that's what I was telling her and informing her and everything. And she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. For us, back then at least, it was just like too expensive to maintain them and everything. But I'm sure there was lots of different options. We
Yeah,
just didn't know about it.
exactly. We were uneducated.
So Leslie doesn't know the story. So I had two hamsters. Their
You
names
had hamsters?
Chimichanga and taco.
I hate hamsters.
And I got them in, I think it was in Tijuana where I got them. They were tiny little hamsters. They were like, little, like not even an inch. I don't remember what kind of hamsters they were, but they were tiny. I also had Oogie at the time. So I went from Tijuana to Mexicali, and then from Mexicali I was gonna cross the border and drive from there, or whatever. But I had the hamsters in a like shoebox type of thing because I didn't have a cage for them. Me thinking that hamsters were just gonna like roam around the house. And so I had them in a little shoebox, and I forgot to put ventilation holes. And so they suffocated to death. I also accidentally maybe toasted a few birds.
Fried.
I got left in charge of taking care of these birds. I was like 8 years old.
If that. Yeah, you were very little.
And my grandparents, they had left town. They left me in charge of the birds. And I think I just forgot about them outside.
Yes.
But there were, what are they called? Cockatiels?
No.
Parakeets? Parakeets.
No.
See?
But those weren't parakeets. Because the parakeets are the blue and the green ones.
Well, I say they were parakeets. Leslie says they're finches that they had.
They were finches.
Doesn't really matter. But I left them outside. They were fried. And I sobbed my eyes out. And I was too scared to tell them. And so my parents took me to a store to look for replacements. But like the PetSmart that was near, like in our city, I think it was the only pet store in the city, but they didn't have any that looked like the freaking birds. And so we went to a different store, and they sure had the birds, but there was a few birds that looked interesting. They were the same coloring, but they were definitely sick. Like there was one, they would say it had one eye, but I don't think it had one eye. It was just an expression to say that it was ugly.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it did have one eye, and there was one with like a huge tumor on its neck.
Yes.
And then my grandparents got home, and they'd be staring at the birds. They'd be like, "They look a little weird."
Well, those replacements ended up not lasting either because my grandpa. No, because my grandpa. Oh. He had to take them because, again, they would be outside during the day and then they would come in during the night and like so often, whatever. And my grandpa was transporting them from inside to outside, but the carrier you had to like lift, but also come from the bottom because the tray was removable. And so he just lifted it, and I think one of the doors was left open too, and the birds just flew away. My dad and I had both been locked out by dogs before. I know he got locked out of the car, obviously, but I don't know the whole story of
how, what, when, where, why.
Yeah. But for me, this lady asked me if I could take her dogs to the groomers, and I said yes. And she had one big old Great Dane and then a tiny little poodle. And so when I got to the groomers, I took out the Great Dane first so I wouldn't have to walk them at the same time because the dog was not trained correctly. So I knew it was going to pull me. I took the Great Dane down, and when I came back, I tried to open the door and it wasn't opening. I was like, what the heck? And I looked at the dog and she's like, so the car was turned on, the AC was turned on and everything, but the dog just wouldn't budge. And I was like trying to get her to go to the side of the door to unlock it, but she fell asleep. She was taking a nap and everything. So I ended up having to call a locksmith. And when I finally got the door open and everything, the groomer didn't have time to give her a very good haircut, and so they just shaved her down. We had a Rottweiler, and again, was not neutered. Rottweilers are big, so their testicles are like huge, right? And he was an outdoor dog.
He was supposed to be a guard dog. He was in Mexicali. Oh, yeah. Lo tenían mis papás en la casa de Mexicali afuera, según para proteger la casa. Y era una lindura.
Yeah.
O sea, él metía la mano para querer agarrar o meter. Él se acercaba y les daba cariños. Así que he was a very sweet dog.
Yes, I loved him. My mom trained him in sign language. He was really smart. So again, he was big in all this. So there was one time he was outdoors, but he knew how to open the sliding door. And so he got inside of the house and he went into my parents' bathroom. And my mom got up in the middle of the night to go pee. And she just saw like a figure. And she was probably half asleep. So she was hallucinating. And she thought there was a panther in the bathroom. And he like came out and she's like, ah! But it was just him. But back to his testicles.
The
how
balls.
how his great life came to an end was that he was stupid and he went to go pee on a cactus and the cactus poked his testicles. They bursted and no one had checked up on him that day.
I had. That's the thing. Like I remember we were eating and I was like, and I just look over and I told my mom, I was like, don't his balls look weird? Because it looked like it was like a little thread of string and then like
Mm-hmm.
his balls. And I was like, that's weird. And I remember my mom was like, maybe he's dehydrated. So we like went and like gave him a bunch of different kinds of water. We gave him like a Tupperware that was frozen with water and like all these things to try to hydrate him. We didn't know what was going on. And
Yeah.
then we saw the blood.
Well, I was staying at my cousin's house, so I wasn't there for all that. But I remember I got the call that he had passed, and I went because they were taking his body, and there was blood. So yeah, he bled to death from him popping his testicles with a cactus.
Which I didn't know it was that until recently, actually. I don't know. That whole thing was traumatizing, though. Seeing him getting carried out.
Berry, I'm pretty sure was the only one we cremated. They didn't have, or at least none that I know of, they didn't have a vet place that you would be like, oh, I want to cremate my dog. You had to go to the funeral home, like where there's human bodies. Um, but we took the dog and everything, and this person like lifted her like as if she was like a pig getting roasted. They just grabbed her by the legs and just no sympathy whatsoever.
Well, when she passed away, I feel like that was also very traumatizing
Yeah,
because they used to sleep in like little kennels and it was like the door was open and she was like laying down inside of it and we're like, come on, come on. Like sticking your hand in there and she just wasn't moving and that's when we realized she had passed.
anyway, another tragic death. Um, my grandma had turtles. Like I think they were red-eared sliders, which apparently are illegal now.
Aren't they like the snap
No,
snap?
snapping turtles are huge.
Oh. I just know that they had the red
Yes,
on the edge and that they were water
yes.
turtles.
Pretty sure they were red-eared sliders. They were pretty big. Um, but they lived in like this little pond thing, and we would clean it out and everything. But someone in the family got left in charge of cleaning it, and he cleaned it with bleach, and didn't realize that the bleach would kill the turtles. So rest in peace, those turtles. So when Lisbeth first got Burger would go to the garage to potty because that's where the litter box was. And
Which again, considering he was adopted,
mm-hmm,
considering he was new, like all these things, he didn't pee and poop all over the house, ni
mm-mm,
nada. Like he would wait until he got taken to the garage so he could use the
yeah.
litter box. Like that's insane.
Well, someone had saved a baby rabbit from outside, and they put the rabbit in the garage. And Burger was on a nice little adventure that day, and ate the body of the rabbit and just left the head. So that's how we found out Burger had eaten a rabbit. I remember when Zerks got neutered, they gave me like the medication for the pain and all that, and I had just adopted him, and so I didn't know much about him and everything. But I remember I had a bag of hot Cheetos next to my desk, and I had the bag with all his medication, and he got into it. He ate all the medication. He ate the bag of hot Cheetos.
Nice.
Homie was fine. He didn't have diarrhea or anything. I was like, what the heck? You know, these fancy dogs, they really be doing the most. Like, they'll literally just eat a piece of cheese and they're like, I have diarrhea.
Some of us can't take cheese like that, okay?
But there was a dog that we know of that had eaten some Slim Jims. I think it was just beef jerky. Hot Cheetos. Pretty sure there was like donuts or something like that.
Nice.
And it had excessive vomiting
Wish that
throughout
was
the
you, huh?
whole night. Yes, I love my Slim Jims. Next morning, vomited again. But Zerk never been affected by anything he ate.
He's a mutt.
Yeah, I think so.
Not
That's my
really, because I feel like purebreds tend to have more problems in
yes,
general. So
because there's a lot of inbreeding there.
incest.
Would you ever have an animal again?
Yes and no. I would love to have a lot of animals, but I want to be able to have the time, money, space to take care of them properly. You know? I don't want to feel like I'm not doing good enough for them because it is sad to see them suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I have Zerks.
now have Zerks and 20 something chickens.
Yeah, I lost count.
A lot of chickens and a turtle and a tortoise.
Yeah, the care of an animal is very expensive, as I've noticed, but I feel like also it just depends on the kind of animal that you have because
Mm-hmm.
working at the vet clinic, I'm like, dude, weren't you just here last week? When I only go to the vet once, twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's crazy that these people are having to go every single week because their dog has this now, their dog has that now. Like 1 week it's the skin, the next it's the ears. Zerx is 7 years old, which is considered senior at this point, but he's never had any issues. He had a benign growth on his leg, which is common for dogs that are 3 years old, and he got it when he was 3. So yeah, a lot of the things that I say, like, I don't mean to come off judgy sometimes, but I just want to inform people.
Yeah, which I feel like this can tie into last episode too. It's just about education and getting resources out and be responsible. I feel like it is very cute to get animals. Who doesn't love it? I mean, I know people don't like animals, but most people like animals. And you want to have a cute animal life, you know, but you need to be educated on all that stuff to be able to give them a proper life in general, if you care.
With a positive note, even though the whole episode was positive.
Yeah, just a lot of tragic.
Positive. Positive note is that now that we have all this information, we are able to give it to other people. And also, we've had animals that have lasted much longer than any other pet.
Yeah.
Burger, we have had for 7
7.
years, which is crazy. Um, Oogie almost around that. No, no, yeah, 7 years. So yeah, that's the positive note is take care of your animals.
Bye.
Bye.